Okay. Start streaming. Come on now, let me have it. Well, I'm here. But YouTube doesn't have us. Can you hear me, Rosemary? Sounds good. Oh, okay, let me see what else is going on. Y'all bear with me just a minute. I've got a technical error with StreamYard. Hang on. Oh, okay. Well, it says it's live, so. Okay, so I'm done with that. Hi, guys. You get to see what all I'm typing and everything. How cool is that? Hanging already? This is still a test for me. Hey, Jelly. Okay, there's what you're going to be looking at. Oh, you're hanging. Okay, good. Now, this is where I can invite people and use multiple cameras. So it's not perfect, but it is getting there. And if you take your screen up to your full screen, you can get a pretty darn good view of what I'm looking at. And it looks like I've got a pretty good lag today. Okay, here we go. Green paint tube. 1, 2, 3, 4. Aha! Only 4 seconds. Good deal. Okay, so yesterday's test, people really wanted the source photo over here to be similar in size to what my painting was. And I'll take suggestions on that. Several of them didn't give a flip about the palette, but that's what this is, so you can see as I mix. I need to get those out of the water, by the way. Okay. I have no idea, Jolie. This is one of Kathy Arbor's. Hey, Cheshire. It sure is a pretty one, though. So I'm thinking, here's what I'm thinking. I'm going to show the one I painted yesterday, which, true to Vicki form in Vicki World, got a little bit realistic, but we know she does that, so I do not know if I have to work on that some other time. That's as good as the palette's going to get until I see how to rise the camera that's here. Okay. So my idea here is I'm going to show you the painting I did yesterday from this source over here. And I'm going to put this away. And I went back to my good watercolor book to see if I could improve on what I did yesterday. And this is just a quick down and dirty sketch. And there, I've got that one already. And here's the middle. Okay, this little book is from Speckled Cat. I'll type that in. Etsy store. And it is a beauty. The colors. And it wraps over, and then I've got a bright yellow string. And I saved it for 2 years, and so I figured it was time to get it out. She made it with Arches paper, which is one of the beta ones, favorite ones of everybody. Now, bear with me while I indulge myself. This is a loose rendering of everything that is white, or everything that's not white. And I don't know if you guys are watercolorists or not, this is from before, so that doesn't matter. Now, everything but these little spots is going to be, I'm just going to do it with this pencil. And being in watercolor is a challenge because your white is the white of the paper. So the goal is to leave as much of that as you can. Okay, so now that also means that all of the background gets covered. This is a trick. It's a tool, but it's a trick to kind of fool my eye as I'm painting. I did not use it yesterday. Now we go back in and do everything that's not white. So that would be these darker yellows. It would be everything else. It would be all the dark purple around. There's a lightish blue in here that fits in that value. Now I'm dealing with light and dark. Let's see. Bear with me. Okay, so this is the white. This is my light, and then I've got the next darker, and then I've got really dark. And everything in here gets a second. I'm not covering this. Okay, so there's my number 3. There's my dark. It's kind of like you're backing into it. And now the darkest darks. And I've already gotten these dark. Some of this is really dark. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. Now the third step, which again, just bear with me. I'm just going to draw the shape of that flower real fast. And this is the white of the paper are these top two. And the darkest color are these two. So that means everything but my white and that light yellow is going to be dark, dark. Leave that. We've got kind of a... Trying to hurry. Okay. And then everything back here. Okay, call that done. Now I've got a little square over here. Now this time I'm going to draw this a little bit better. I've got a square, which is my format for this. My flower on the screen measures about like this. And I want it to be just a hair bigger. Okay. And we know that, I know from yesterday that it's the same. So I'm starting, all of these are ruffles. And then this one starts right here, ruffle, ruffle, white, ruffle, ruffle. And then we have this little baby, ruffle, ruffle. And this one comes all the way down. And then we have some of this background, I mean this core purple. And here. And then we've got some, I'm not going to worry with the stamen because yesterday what I did was put those on with, well now what did I do? I've got something, I can't have that on there at the same time. Okay, well never mind on that, I'll show it to you when you want to see it. Okay, then we've got a few light. And we've got some, just various leaves going on. And I've got my other, now, who's here? CB, hey CB. Yes, Joe, this is something new that I'm experimenting with. And in watercolor, the whites are the hardest to keep. So if you plan for your whites in advance, then you can sneak up on them. So this is a value study or a no-tan, which is all black and white. So I'm going to attempt, no, I'm going to do, I have a Jean Haynes Kolinsky Sable number 10. And I'm going to do two things. I'm going to try to follow my value study, and I'm going to try to paint like Jean Haynes. Ha ha ha. Let me wet my paint first. Now, y'all saw the other day, I think. I don't know who was here and who was not. The Jean Haynes style is very, very loose. And sometimes looks more like this. Okay. I guess the rest of them are lost. Okay, anyway. This is kind of sort of it, but she always lets her flowers just drift off into nothing. There they are. Duh. Tomorrow I'm going to paint this again on Arches paper. This is the Jean Haynes type style where There's some negative stuff around the flowers. And that's kind of her style. And so is that. So I'm going to try that style because what I did yesterday was more realistic. Which, if y'all know me very long at all, you know that's what my natural inclination is. And it's okay, but you want to have different tools in your toolbox. And different styles constitute a tool. Any questions? Joe, I'm just starting to do that. It never really, in the almost 20 years I've been painting, I just thought they were a pain in the butt and I didn't want to mess with them. But then somebody that I've studied with a long time explained it in a way that it made sense to me. So then I started doing them. Okay, so Jean Haynes. I'm going to prop this up just a little so it'll run. Get my 100% bird's eye, all natural cotton diaper. I don't want any hard edges. And I just painted right over that little bud. I mean, that little leaf. Kleenexes are the best for immediately wiping something up. The beauty of this is on bigger papers and stuff. Well, that's a leaf. You want variation in your greens. It's one reason why I don't like greens so much. If you look in nature, there's everything from pea green to grass green to emerald green. And I don't really want that there. Okay, so I'm gonna mop up that. I'm gonna add some dark just off my palette up here. Just some that's already flown down. And just let it go. This is where I don't use a blow dryer because I like when these pigments play together. They make magic if you'll let the water do its job. And while that moves a little bit, hey, Wendy, you see all these? For the most part, this is Pearline green. I think I've got a little Amazonite. Don't know how you say that. These are all Daniel Smith sitting out here. Jadeite. Basically, that's it. Here's the Pearline. I don't know if I have any green apatite or not. I don't really stress a whole lot over well, I don't stress at all. I want y'all to have an idea of where I went with it, but that's why I like this saucer thing, because whatever's in the middle here has mixed itself already, and you get some beautiful color variations. And I want some of these to be a little, oh, this is my go-to brush when it's a low Cornell series 7020. I use this when I want to do some softening of edges rather than my good Kolinsky. Now the key to this little loose style is loose and dreamy edges and movement in the background. You can do your greens in this case with a couple of blues and a couple of yellows, and that will suffice. But I have these Daniel Smiths, so I'm not going to save them much longer. I'm a saver. I'm still just practicing with the StreamYard and OBS because I want the OBS for multiple cameras and I want the StreamYard so that this little square over here on the far left can be one of you. Okay, so like it could be my picture, which nobody wants to see me paint. Make sure I'm staying up with comments. Joe, is this your first time? Doesn't matter, but now I'm thinking. Scary proposition. Now, when I did my no-tan, remember that I covered everything that was not white with a very light tone. And I will do that again with yellow. Now that happens to be a lemon yellow. And in here I have a Cad Yellow Deep, I believe. It's in the Daniel Smith Essentials. It's the dark yellow. It's the more orangey yellow. So this is your cool yellow because it contains a little green, and this is your warm yellow because it contains a little bit of red. So that's what I'm going to use when it comes time to work on the flower, because this other one has all this has to be dry. And I think that we will find a pretty good difference on the way arches blends with each other on the paper and the way the bee paper does. The bee paper is 100% cotton, but it doesn't have the sizing and the perfection that Arches has. It's great for a practice paper. And, oops, I got a fingerprint. Anybody want a fingerprinted paint? Good, Joe. I normally stream on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 4, strictly for the reason that there's nobody else in the core fib group that streams then. And it's also right in the middle of my happy place, which is I'm pretty quiet from the time I get up till about 2 o'clock. And so then from 2 to 5, I'm in here do that day. So that's why I do the 4 o'clock. And I do realize it interferes with people's dinner time prep. Now, a true Jean Haynes would have little to nothing on this bottom edge. I don't even know if that leaf area would be there. I can tip the book up and make that, pretend this was here all along. So it's all about organic, and it's all about letting the water have the control over you. You don't get the control in watercolor. Angela Fair, not so much. Um, um, her style is almost too unplanned. I think you need a little bit of something, and she paints a lot out of her head, or pretty much out of her head, which there's nothing wrong with that. Look how pretty that went up in there. It's making a blossom. No, there's nothing wrong with it at all. Jean Haynes, on the other hand, is deliberate in her looseness. How does that sound? Is that better? I'm going to go ahead with this yellow. I've got this really thinned down. You can barely see it. So I'm going to paint everything in this painting except my whitest white. In the flower, I should say. I also try, when I'm using a good brush, is not to do a whole lot of tappy, scrubbies. These wear out. The hairs will wear out faster. So if I'm going to do something like that, you'll see me pick up a synthetic. And these aren't rules by any stretch of the imagination. They're just what I was taught. And then this intersection gets it. My pencil lines are a little bit dark in there. But there you have it. All right. I haven't got my palette perfected yet. Come on down this way. Like I said, I'm still working on it. I caught hell last night, CB, because not everybody wanted to see the palette. When in actuality, the palette that an artist uses will teach you more about painting than actually watching her put it on the paper. All right, so these are all pans out of my system. I have one of these for every tube I have, so I can pull it out of its master spot in its tin, and it's easy to put back because they're all labeled. Now, here's an example of something good showing up in your plate. Oop. See how neat that is, a color? And that had some vermilion and maybe just a touch of opera, and then some of this green kind of bled over into it. That's a pretty neutral. It made itself. I don't have so many Schminkas. I use mostly Winsor Newton and Daniel Smith, M. Graham. I have a few odds and ends of Mary Blue. I've been collecting tubes since I started, so I've got quite a few. But they are mainly those brands. And then I've got a ton of craft brands that I dearly love, like my Primas, and the colors are already mixed in that tin, and they're so cute and they're so pretty. And if you're doing a craft project or something quick in a journal, you just want to jump in and pick that color and go with it. That's fun. No, you're not going to get the same results, but that's not necessary. Okay. So now I've got a little bit of This color happens to be Lavender by Holbein, W316. And it has a little white in it. Now I'm looking back at my source photo, and I'm doing the brushy thing. I teach what I most need to learn. I'm just getting some of these dull colors in this plate and using them. This is what begins to make that petal curve. Loose edges. Gotta think Haynes. Gotta think Haynes. Let's do the rest of this color, and then I've got to figure out how I'm gonna make it real loose. And don't everybody get all upset. You don't have to do this. I'm doing it for fun, because I like to challenge myself. And if I don't challenge myself, then I get bored. And Vicki bored is not a good thing. One more of those. This is what I prefer to see, is using the side of the brush rather than the tip. And the other thing that's fun for those of you aspiring watercolors is watercolorists is to get and see, play with yourself, challenge yourself to see how long you can leave your brush on the paper when you're putting down an area. And I've got a little bit of pinky. On these little ladder petals. We can't see that one, so. And I did mention that Kathy Arbor is the one who grew and took these pictures. I'm also a proponent of, okay, now back on our thing over here, because I'm so interested. I've got my white, because I didn't touch my white areas with any color. And then I've got this secondary, the next darkest color, and I've got my yellows and blues in. They're just a little bit darker than my white value, but that's where it's going to work. Now next I need to come in with my middle, which is this, and middle tone in that value could also be purple. This is Cobalt Blue Deep. So any color in that value range can be used, because when you're far away, they will read as the same value. So yesterday I used a little bit of alizarin crimson. I've got so many palettes going, I don't need to add any more to my plate. Whoops, I was going to make a purple. Now, that's my middle, my third value tone for here. And then I need a green in the middle. And I got my green all the way out because I was experimenting. Okay, now I need this same purple color around all of my ruffles. Let me get out my purple. This is my tin for my purple tubes. And I want some of this darker color. I made this situation, every swatch is labeled with both the pigment numbers in the pigment formulation in the tube, the name of the color, and the company that it's from. And then on the side of each one, I put the name, and then here I put where it lives in this tin on that row. I know it's obsessive, but that's my little picadillo. We all have them. And I'm just holding the brush very lightly, letting that dip in and out to make my ruffles. The further back you can hold your brush, the better off you are for this type of painting. If you're doing craft painting, it doesn't matter. Alrighty, so that may be, okay, I want to go ahead and put in while that's wet. Now this had a big curl in it, and this is flopping back up toward us. It's a little bit difficult to achieve in a realistic, in a loose. Nah, I don't like me. Okay. I'm gonna go back to this little cobalt blue. The sun's coming from up here, so my shadow would be opposite the sun. Wet brush, and I dried it on my towel. 100% bird's eye, all natural cotton diaper. So there's my shadow from the top of the flower there. That's really about all I've got. Maybe just a little bit right here. Tappy, tappy, tappy. I'll see a little bit more right in here. See if y'all got anything to say. Hi, Beth. I'm reading the stuff. Now, I need to come back. I need some real dark green in here. Here's my darkest darks. This is my fourth step on my no tan. You know what? That little thing right there I thought I covered over wasn't a petal to begin with. I think it's probably too late to fix that. But yeah, It's not a fix. It's just I see something and then jump to a conclusion that isn't always what it is. Loosen the edges to make it look like it's been there forever. Now I need my darkest purple. Let's put a little bit of this Mary Blue out. Right, I'll put it over here. Need to start using it because it's come on, go back in there. Okay, done. I twisted the tube so much trying to get the cap off that kind of forced some of it out. This looks like a bluish. No, it's purplish. Is that what I had? No, here's the Mary. No, it is that. So it's real close to what I used. No big deal. You'll get slight variations from brand to brand, but I don't usually worry with them. I didn't want that. I want this. I've got Moon Glow in here. That would be fun. I've got Shug Light. I've got Shadow Violet. Is that for real? That's what it says. I thought Shadow Violet was more grade. That doesn't mean that I didn't do it wrong. So let's go with some of this. No, I didn't. I do not like masking fluid. I don't even have a love-hate with it. I just have a hate with it. I can get just as good a result with some whitewash. Thank you, Beth. Okay. This is a very, very subtle color, so it's not going to do a whole lot of darken. But it is a beautiful color. This is a Daniel Smith. You need, some of these Daniel Smiths, you need a big piece of paper and a big swath of area for them to really show their beauty. But I am using it to darken some of these areas. Still trying to keep this loose, and I'm not sure. You can see I should not have it. And again, y'all are just coming in. I'm playing with this. I challenge myself when I'm painting. And that's probably a staining color. So put down clean water and leave it. This is how I scrub areas that I forgot I didn't want to paint. It is, Joe. And they're so perfect that you end up spending, unless you put it on with a stick and just kind of, or splatter it, then you get some irregular lines. But it takes too much time to put that stuff on, wait for it to dry. And okay, now I've got a dry brush. And I'm going to just lay it over that purple and then wipe it off again. And I'm going to repeat. Water. Leave it. I have used it in the past. I don't paint that way. I try to keep from painting rigid And to me, masking fluid is kind of a rigid process. Some of the rigid watercolors where everything is carefully drawn out, and this is a pencil line here, and you've got another pencil line here, delineating each of the shadow spots. That's almost like painting by numbers, because you have to paint this and then wait for it to dry and come over here and paint this before you can come back and paint the lighter shape. To me, it's just, it defeats the purpose of watercolor. The beauty of watercolor. Okay, now, dry brush. And this is a laborious process. Always clean water. And painting tight like that is fine with me because I am a realistic painter. However, it's harder for me to paint loose. And so, of course, if you get to know me, you'll know that that's why I do it, because it's hard. What I just did there by scrubbing with this brush, never, 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 ever, ever do it with a good brush. I had a hard line there I didn't really like. It's still there, but it's better. Now y'all have to let me know if you want more videos like this, because I've got a lot of people in my YouTube group that don't want this kind of thing. And that means that y'all have to share it if you like it and get more people that like it. That doesn't mean I'm not going to keep doing journals and collage and stuff like that. It just means that painting is my first love. And mixed media and journaling and art journaling is what brought me. The reason I started in that was to learn to loosen up, because in there, just put it down, don't worry about it. And that's what I have to do with my watercolor. Does that make sense? Now, the way that I've got these cameras set up, like I said, I could have volunteers who wanted to paint along, and I could actually teach, which I'm pretty much doing anyway. Dry brush. And y'all could be over here on the left, and if you wanted me to look at something up close, I can make you be the big screen in the middle, and we can talk about it while we're doing it. And if you just want to paint along with me on something that you want to do, and I'm doing something I want to do, let me know. We can do that too. I know Beth has wanted to. But I'll tell you what I discovered. I need an administrator who can go in and change who's on first and who's not, because it's too much for me to do, especially with having so many software programs open. Because I've got OBS on my laptop. That's where I'm doing the multiple camera. And then StreamYard is picking that up as a screen share. That's why you're seeing the toolbar down at the bottom and the top where my browser is. And then it's broadcasting from StreamYard, which allows the extra participants. Good, Carol. I was sitting in the, I'm trying to also break a talking head TV day. So I've been trying to come in here more and break that habit. I got it 2 years ago when I had all that surgery. I had never watched TV during the day before. Okay, I'm about bored with that. And that's darker because it's curving. Well, actually, it's curving up. I lied. Doesn't matter. Nobody knows what a flower really looks like. And if it were curving up, it would probably have some white right in there, which I can add that real easy with a little bit of gouache. We were also taught, if you went to any art classes or things that you've studied on the internet, that Chinese white or gouache white was a no-no for watercolor. That's bullshit. Excuse my French. It's my feed. I can do what I want to. I'm not real sure where that came from, but a couple of really snooty watercolor associations helped foster it. If Winslow Homer and John Singer Sargent and Charles Reed used Chinese white or gouache, then I can too. And I'm not trying to get a signature membership in any of those little clubs. That's just a dirty gray from there, from my plate. Put it on, take it off. And that's something I learned with oil paint. So any medium that you pick up to play with will affect the other things that you play with. So I was using cobalt. I'm going to put just a little shadow right here. And this leaf is coming up, up and out. Kind of cupping. Now I said yesterday when I was painting the other one that you can get 3-dimension, which is the cupping and which way it goes, 2 ways. You can either do it with a stroke, like you can curve your stroke, and then your petal would be, so that by itself implies that that petal is curving. And you can do it with shading. And we're assuming here that the sun would be that way. Because if the sun were here, your shadowing part would be down here, and that would be white. This isn't doing just a whole lot for me. I need to study Jean some more. That's pretty much all she would do. And she does it a whole lot more graceful than I do. So I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and add some more darks. Some emerald green, whatever that is. It's bluish green. Now the paint will not go where it's not wet. So if you want the paint to go somewhere, you make a wet path for it to follow. For example, if I wanted that completely to be without water, I could have wet around that petal first, then put my color on, and this would remain dry, in theory. There's always an in theory. I'm going to add some water. I love when colors on my palette work. Let's put another thing that I do, and that's one reason I have 3 containers of water. The small containers get dirty quicker. So my little wee yogurt things, I love them. So I keep 2 of those here. Painting with your dirty water is an excellent way to get a gray. I keep wanting to be done and I'm not. I need to come back in with the darker purple. You'd really like I could still go darker with that green. And the thing that's so much fun, and I've never done a journal before. I just never really got into it, but it's remarkably freeing. Now when you put water on it and make it flow, it lightens the color, so you need to come back up where you started and add more pigment. So it's a back and forth. Water and watercolor. Set it free. That should be my motto. Set it free. And again, you teach what you most need to learn. I never put myself up to be the big guru, because I've known some big gurus, And they always had other people that they followed who were bigger gurus. So when you learn that, you kind of lose some of your, well, you gain some knowledge of the mystery. The day I saw my portrait teacher, mentor, take a beautiful painting, I thought, off his easel and rip it into shreds was the day I realized that, uh-oh, I got a long way to go because I thought that was good. All right, I'm going to leave it. Now, I didn't put this, see, I keep missing it. Whitewash. May not be dry enough. I'm using this straight out of the tube. It is on a damp brush. We'll talk about wash another day. I'm going to let that dry real good, and then I can hit it with just a little bit of yellow, and that'll give it its color. Okay, back on track. Yeah, I'm not that good with intuitive painting either. Yes, it is, Joe, and black as well. I have never used black in watercolor. I will use black very sparingly to mix with, sometimes in oil, but I never have used it in watercolor. Thank you, Julie. You only have it. Well, this is a really good one. I put the name up above. It's Speckled Cat on Etsy, and it's hand sewn. It has this cute little tie that gets in the way of everything, and Arches paper. So, yeah, and then I save them. Joe, since you haven't been here, here are some better No-10 type value studies that I've done. And I used a marker on this. I got lazy today and just used a pencil. And I've been painting some of them twice to see if I could brighten them up, loosen them up, you know, just seeing what I could do after having painted. These faces were good. This technique really helped with faces. Uh-oh. This was the second attempt at that. But until I did the, let me show you on the first one, I got a better drawing on it. This one. Until I did the No-10, which is everything that's not white and light is black, that I saw this pattern emerge, and it came into play in my painting. I could have made this more like a brick wall. The green may not read quite good, but I was very impressed with the way I kept the white in the hand. To me, that's a holy grail. And the white up here. This one's not so good. It's kind of muddy. That would be choice of colors. That one's not too bad. But It really helps. So I thought, okay, you've got this beautiful sketchbook. If you do this where your note ends and your painting are side by side, this will be a good resource. I wasn't happy with that one at all, but everybody else said, oh, I love it. So I kept it. Well, I mean, I would keep it anyway. You learn as much from the mistakes as you do the, or not mistakes. You learn a lot from every one of them. Okay. Yeah, the problem is, Jelly, it's just like me. I've got 2 drawers over there and a flat file full of full sheet watercolor paper, Fabriano, Arches, Kilimanjaro, which is Cheap Joe's brand. And they're still over there. What do I grab? The B paper. To me, this has not that much value. So if I ruin it, it's okay. Or, if I want to tear it up and use it in collage, where the Arches and the Fabriano are more precious, so I'm not as likely to pick them up and use them. So I decided what I'm going to do, and I have to move my big easel to get to that flat file. I'm going to pull some of those out, and I'm going to break them into 4s. And then I can take those 4s and break them down. That's what I did last week with this piece of Arches. And then if I want a smaller piece, it's easy to do that right here. There's no point in saving that. Some of my papers I've had for 10 years. My collection, it's time to use it. What else was I going to say? Oh, last night, guys, I was looking on Jerry's Artorama, and they've got a thing at the very top of their website called Try It, Buy It, Try It. And they have some things this month, and don't quote me, but I think it was 5x7 Fabriano pad or pieces in a pack. 5x7. This is what, 6x9. Yeah. So not too much smaller than this. But Fabriano is a hell of a lot better paper than this. And they have, like, again, don't quote me, but I think it was 4 of those sheets for $2.25. So I was going to order 20 of the packs. I mean, I'd rather have that than this. And the price, this is what, 30 sheets, 20 sheets for $15. It was in the ballpark. Anyway, they had some good prices, so y'all might want to check that out. You like a wire pad journal? Yeah, Strathmore. I almost like the blue Canson watercolor paper better. Hey, Ian, I forgot you were here. Ian has been playing with this multiple camera, multiple person combination of software too. We've both been kind of testing it the last week. You can make your own journals. I make them all the time in my Robin McClendon collage and journal bookmaking studies. This is simple to do. And then don't forget this. Hang on, don't forget it. This is one of Robin's junk journals. She calls them her intuitive, I think, journals. I won it in a giveaway. These are just put together with elastic. And you can do the same thing with watercolor paper. Every page lays flat. I mean, for a work journal, that's great. It'd work with watercolor too. You'd think that it would be cheaper over there, since over there is where it's made. Oh well, then if it's deteriorated, it's deteriorated. So that's two different variations of the same flower. That's really all I wanted to accomplish. And I did accomplish that. Anybody else have any questions? I'll be glad to answer them. That's what I'm here for. Joe, in case, just so you'll know, I'm also a proponent of limited palette. That's why I taught my students with this. It has a warm blue, a cool blue, warm red, cool red. See how I put them in order. And warm yellow, cool yellow. And in theory, with those 6 colors, you can mix anything you want. I don't use earth tones in my watercolor because I can mix them. The warm red and the cobalt blue or warm blue makes a beautiful burnt sienna type color. But it's a challenge, and it's also a learning experience. There, that just came right out of that little hole. It's a good learning and training experience. And then after you learn a little bit more about color theory, then you know that it's okay just to let some various pigments mix together in your plate. Look at this over here with the little purple. Well, you can't make that on your own. This I love. And I love these little plates. I get them at the dollar store. I use Fabriano Artistico an awful lot. And it has been rumored around the industry for years that Arches makes Cheap Joe's Kilimanjaro. Because all of those companies have factories, manufacturers that make their private label stuff. Like Cheap Joe's watercolor paint, watercolor American Journey is made by Da Vinci. They'll deny it all day long, but it's made by Da Vinci. Perhaps just a formula or a particular color that Cheap Joe's wants, but they're manufactured by them. Da Vinci's are wonderful. I really enjoy that paint. Yeah, it's interesting the way you learn. And as always with art, there is always something else to learn, some other challenge you can do, a new tactic, a new technique, a new style. And that to me is what makes it so much fun. It's not something that you will ever get. Like I said, I've seen masters tear their paintings up in front of you. In fact, he did that. He did that with a portrait of me once. Apparently, I'm pretty hard to paint. Just tore it up right in front of me because the nose was a little bit too wide across the bridge, so he just ripped it up and did it over. Wish I had it. He's gone now. I learned everything I know about portrait painting and soft pastel from him. I learned everything I know about portrait painting in oil from a guy named Tim Tyler. I learned florals and general pastel work from Urana Christie Tarbert, who founded the International Pastel Society's group. So I've had some good mentors. I like this color passage right in here. That's done with the paint in that Daniel Smith. I need to see what that is. Not any fun talking about it if I can't share what it is. You wrestle. Box pastels. Well, I may not be able to get to it. Phthalo blue, which I've never used very much because one of my first teachers said never use it. That's oil. Oil. I can't, that's the only one I can find easily. Need to put that back. These little tubes, anybody that's ever looking to start watercolor, instead of seeing them buy $50, $60, $70 set of White Knights or Cotman, I'll tell them to get one of these little packages of 6. And it's got those 6 colors in it. And that's what a beginner needs to stick with anyway. And this, I did my whole class in watercolor, and half of that tube is still left. So, bye, CB. I enjoyed having you here. You probably wouldn't, Wendy, since it's manufactured in the U.S. No, Da Vinci is artist grade. The key to the Da Vinci paint is that they give more in a bigger tube than the M. Graham's, Daniel Smith's, and the Winsor Newtons, but the quality really is good. Da Vinci is made, I think, in Southern California, but the owner of the company, 3 generations ago, was from Italy and had worked in one of the big color factories. I don't know what they call them over there. Here we call them colorists. The color mixing is a scientific thing, and it's more than just buying powder and putting a gum arabic in it and saying you made watercolor paint. Y'all got any more questions? I love it that y'all are having an art conversation. I'm just shocked that Arches is that expensive over there. And we can get sales here almost any day of the week for 50, 60% off suggested retail. Maybe the competition's just harder here in the States with all the online stores. Ian, were you happy with your video yesterday? I haven't looked at it yet. Ian is on PC. I'm on Mac. So he was able to have a piece of software called Virtual Camera to do what I'm doing here and showing my whole screen instead of the streaming screen. So Joe, yes, with the honey. They're nice because they re-wet good. And some of the Daniel Smiths are like rock hard when you try to do them. One of my favorite brands of homemade paint, or not homemade, but bespoke, is that the way you say it in England? some wrestling. I'll be right there.